video and photo montage of Dr. John Biggers' work. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Thank you very much. Thank you. I now have the distinct honor of introducing our first speaker for this evening, legendary documentary photographer, TSU alum, and former student of Dr. John Biggers, Mr. Early Hudnall, Jr.
I think I'm going to pass up on the notes, but to the Houston community, all of you that have gathered here tonight to celebrate the 100th birthday of John Thomas Biggers, I want to thank you. To Commissioner Rodney Ellis, who have had the vision of understanding and develop a love for African art and the art of John Biggers. There's something magical you and won't life. But let me remind you, we probably would not be sitting here tonight if it was not for his wife, Hazel Biggers. She was the anchor in his life that commanded and demanded all of the receipts. She allowed John to be free of the anchors to practice his art. I am not a pro. she began to teach us the understanding of who we were and how we live. And as most people ask, what about the photography? My father was just a holiday amateur photographer for the family. But there was an album that my grandmother kept with pictures of community and pictures that my father had made while he was in military service. And as a boy wanting to be like his father, and that was my hero at that time, I purchased a small camera when I joined the Marine Corps, the same as he had when he was in service, and I began to make pictures. But referring back to that album, I began to understand the reason for documenting our community, who we are and what we do. So coming back to TSU, in our first art seminar, John Biggers said, art is life. I thought about it and went on. And one day, as I was practicing photography within the art department, some of the students told me there was a dark room. John Biggers was coming down the hallway one day with a white dashiki, white pants, sandals with white socks. And I said, Doc, I heard there was a dark room. May I have permission to use it? He said, sure, man. He reached in his pocket and gave me the key. And the rest is history. He said it's through the printmaking room. So from that, as I began to make photographs, eventually, he invited me to make pictures of his work. And making pictures of his work, I developed a relationship. But before all of that, I knew nothing about John Biggers. I didn't know that as a small boy, growing up in Gastonia, that his mother was a washerwoman. And John used to carry the water for the wash pot. And then his father was a one-leg preacher, who John said we did not realize that he had one leg because he played ball with us. John went to Lincoln Academy, and he played football. But he also fired the furnace early in the mornings. And so next to his house, his boyhood home, was a creek that had all of the aqua life, the turtles, the crabs, and those kinds of things. And this is why you see the symbol of the wash pot, the washboard. You see the pot. And he began to understand the elements, the fire, the air, and how those elements came together. But throughout the art department, and John going to Africa in 1957, he said, it completely changed me. He said the monumental task of the people, how they lived, how they endured, and all of these things was a great, great influence. That's why it's called Anansi, the web of life. The great spider who was the architect, who his web represent the sun, and the sun resonates with God. John Biggers said those experiences influenced and changed his work forever. But trying to understand and being a student of John Biggers, he was always available to his students. One thing that he would say, one must always work. Do your work. One must always remember that you can be pleasantly surprised by what a person do when your expectations does not, if one supersedes his expectation, you can be pleasantly surprised. I want to speak about not only myself, but Charles Kreiner, Joseph Moran, Edward Mills, Kermit Oliver, and Harvey Johnson. We all had a special place with John Biggers because of our work ethics And we gravitated toward that home upbringing, the storytelling. See, a lot of people don't realize that John Biggers was a better sculptor than he was an artist, a drawer, a painter. John Biggers was an educator, and the emphasis that he placed upon education and order. And when you walked into the art department and you walked down the hallway, the art was pristinely displayed. In reference to what Commissioner Ellis just said about John winning first prize at the Museum of Fine Arts and not being able to attend, the art department became a refuge for community, for former students who brought their students back to the university to see the art within the art department. The art department was open at night up until 10:30. If you came there early in the morning, Mr. Sims down in the painting room would always have music playing softly. Charles Kreiner said that art was like a seed. Once it was planted, it would consume you. Kreiner said he had to come to the realization that he never slept in a bed by himself. He never knew his father. He had never painted or drew a black person. Harvey Johnson stated that his mother taught him the meaning and the understanding of African American life and art. But he said John Biggers was the one who more or less educated him in that way. And Kermit Oliver, John Biggers said, there wasn't anything that I could teach him, but to give him space. Kermit's famous saying was, give me my books and a bowl of food, slide under the door, and I can be the happiest man in the world. But Joe Moran and Bert Samples cling to the style of Kermit Oliver more so. They was tutored by him. But for us in the art department, John Biggers would come in always with a smile on his face. He never in his classes showed examples of what one was supposed to do and how you supposed to draw and how you supposed to paint. He always would look at what you was doing and encourage you to go forward. You must dematerialize those raw colors, pull them out in your wash, and keep it going, and make the observation. So, over a period of time, we all began to follow Biggers by example that he set within the department. Early morning, working on a painting, maintaining the art department, fighting for the kinds of materials and things we needed to work with, and more or less making things accessible to the students. But for me, from a very personal standpoint of view, I was welcomed wholeheartedly into the family, only by choice. I went over to his house to make some photographs. I met his wife, Hazel. John every day would come home about 10:30, 11 o'clock to prepare Hazel. Hazel would come home and eat. Hazel, more or less, would watch John, and she would say, John, I think you're doing right. Okay, honey. Okay. When he went into Africa, Hazel was by his side the whole while. They had to one night to sleep in a house the man had provided. And they said that the goats were on the tables and all of that. They had to scrub the house. But John, vocabulary. If you can, in university, and painting the mural, Illumination and Growth, that spanned 3 stories of the elevator. The room they gave was only about 10 feet tall. So what did he have to do? To lay the canvas. Achieve that. Once, for me, what brought me into the realization was I was supposed to have met him one morning, and I was late. John Biggers said, "No." He said, "If you're going to work with me, you have to be on time." He said, "Every morning, I have to make the proper sacrifice with my medication before I can start." So that put me into high gear. Then, once you think of the creativity, when John said that African art takes one outside of time and space, but something more poignant than that was when I was in his studio and I saw the picture of the dying soldier. And the soldier is trapped in the barbed wire. His gun is in one hand. And in the background, John explained that everything in that man's life that had happened, his family, his belief, all of that, he had that drawn in the background. And I could relate to that being in combat in Vietnam. But I never thought about what had happened. I was trying to more or less protect myself and the guy that was underneath me in the foxhole. But I began to realize the creativity of John Biggers. If you view the photograph of John Biggers' studio that's in the lobby, you will see there is several pieces of work that is going on. John said, "Hutnall, whatever I paint has to be factual. It has to be truthful." He said, "I can only go so far that sometimes I have to stop and then work on something else." The greatest examples of that was when he ended up doing Shotguns, the 25th Precinct, which more or less was a reflection of Mrs. Kristen Adair's life. John asked me, he said, "Hutnall, come and go with me." And I did. I took my camera. He interviewed Mrs. He interviewed the lady in detail and made notes and came back and created the mural that you see that's in Adair Park, and it will reflect up again. But John was always that way. He was very meticulous. The contributions of Negro women in life and education and the struggle of women. John always said, "Hutnall, woman domesticated man. They are the only ones on the face of the earth that can bring forth life." And this is the reason why you see symbols of the women within his work. His first painting, he said, that he painted at Hampton was crossing the bridge. Why? It was from the back. John said, "I could not paint the feet nor the hands." But if you look at his work and the monumental task of his work today, you see the emphasis is placed upon the hands, the feet, and the struggle and the strength of women. That goes back to his belief of his mother, who was a washerwoman, the strength of Hazel and all African American women, and each one of you that is sitting here today. This was John Biggers' quest for the work that he more or less followed. Sacred geometry with Mr. Powell in the math department. He understood and he practiced and he taught and he studied that even after he had finished teaching and would work as an artist at home. John Biggers, to me, was one of the most creative minds in the world of art, of understanding how he was able to bring forth the stories of Africa and relate it to the African Americans, the shotgun house, which that developed into him recruiting and talking to Rick Lowe and the founders of the Row House Project. That grew out of that Renaissance period that came through TSU. And for that, all of that is who John Biggers was. I had the privilege of having keys to his house, keys to his studio, taking care of his house when him and Hazel went to Hampton, visiting him down Turtle Creek Lane in Gastonia up there, spending time with John and Hazel, sitting at the tables on Sundays and having dinners. And then when I introduced them to my wife, Brenda, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I was expounding and bragging and talking, and John Biggers said, Hutnall, if I was Brenda's father, I would shoot you. He said, stop talking and marry the woman. And that I did. So on that note, if you want to ask some questions afterwards, I will. John Biggers was on his journey. In his found days, he was painting and drawing in his silk pajamas, along with Harvey Johnson, Paul Goodnight, and Charles Kreiner, sitting outside the studio, John with his legs crossed and sitting there. And then there were the end of Ramadan, and all of the African dealers came around, and they bought artworks and they set them on the ground. And we went into the studio, and John pulled out prints, and we traded prints. And at the end of that, John said, Hutnall, I want the lot. He said, the rest of that, you take it home. He looked at me and said, Hutnall, are you happy? I said, yeah, John. I said, I'm very happy. And on that, and because he would be extremely tickled that brothers from the motherland that I've met from Art and Mankind and Commissioner Ellis, that is doing the reproduction of the murals that you will see in the parks. And I think that Rodney can tell you the locations, and the ones that's downtown. Jubilee there is on the side of the music building. This one here is on the side of the H&PE building. And so on the wall in John Biggers' studio was a statement, on my journey now. He said, Hutnall, stop talking and go to work. On that note, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutnall, for those very important words, and also for the work that you have done and accomplished as well. We appreciate you. Dr. Biggers shaped how we understand art in Houston and far beyond it. He taught generations of artists how to see their work as part of a larger story, as you heard from Mr. Hutnall, rooted in history, community, and responsibility. Tonight's panel builds on that legacy. We are here to listen, to learn, and to carry forward the questions Dr. Biggers asked through his work. The conversation will center on how his influence continues to show up in research, in institutions, and in the lives of young artists and scholars today. We are now fortunate to have Dr. Brittany Webb guiding the conversation as our moderator for this evening. Dr. Webb serves as a curator of modern and contemporary art at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, where her work reflects a deep commitment to artists whose voices shape our understanding of culture and history. Dr. Webb, welcome. Joining her are three panelists whose work connects directly to Dr. Biggers' enduring impact. We have Rita Reyes, a graduate fellow with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I believe the first student in Texas Southern history to graduate with a minor in museum studies. Welcome, Rita. Supporting her are Ken Jackson, a senior at Texas Southern University student, also working with the Smithsonian AAHC, and Kamila Davis, a junior at TSU, also with the same program. Welcome, Kamila. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody else to. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Rita Reyes, and I'm so thankful to be a part of this presentation and be with everyone here today. John Thomas oh, I'll go ahead. Which way are we going? Is it the center? Clicking on just this, how do we click over? Yeah, sorry about that. It was off. All right, again, my name is Rita Reyes. Thank you for having me here today. John Thomas Biggers was born in Gastonia, North Carolina, and grew up in a shotgun house made by his father. Biggers was the youngest of 7 children, to parents Paul and Cora Finger Biggers. His parents attended Lincoln Academy, a secondary school for enslaved children in King Mountain, North Carolina. His father worked several jobs, working as a school principal, a Baptist preacher, a farmer, and he also repaired shoes. His mother was a domestic worker, described by Biggers as having an eye for beauty in almost everything. Biggers' earliest artistic memories were sketching copies of religious illustrations from his father's Bible, watching the women in his family make quilts, and building miniature replicas of Gastonia with his brothers and sister Sarah. In 1937, at a young age of 12, his father passed away, leaving John and other siblings to support his mother. John Biggers was enrolled at Lincoln Academy and earned money by working at the school to fire boilers in the buildings. His original plans were to study heating and plumbing, considering his experience working in the boiler rooms, but this all changed once he met psychologist artist and teacher Victor Lowenfeld at an art class. Not only did Lowenfeld impact Biggers' life, but he made an impression on many other artists, including Carol Harris Sims, Charles White, and Elizabeth Catlett. Lowenfeld's goal was to promote art as a tool for oppressed people to connect with their cultural identity and gain self-esteem. He also encouraged his students to record in their art the disappointments of life in the Southern Black community. Finding a mentor in Lowenfeld, Biggers changed his major to art, and to say the least, his life was changed forever. Biggers took an interest in murals by studying Mexican muralist Diego Rivera and artists from the Mexican muralist movement. These artists use murals to inform and remind the larger community of their history and reinforce pride, and Biggers wanted to do just that with his community. As a student at Hampton, he created 2 murals titled The Country Preacher, which shows a traditional preacher giving a sermon, and The Dying Soldier, depicting a soldier's death on the battlefield. In 1943, Biggers was a featured artist in the exhibit Young Negro Art in the New York's Museum of Modern Art. Shortly after being drafted into the Navy, Biggers joined his mentor, Lowenfeld, who had become head of the art education department at Penn State University. During this time at Penn State, he worked on 2 murals, one titled Harvest Song, showing people celebrating the earth's fruitfulness, and Night of the Poor, illustrating the harshness and emotional effects of slavery. Biggers earned his bachelor's and master's degree in 1948 and also married Hazel Biggers, whom he met at Hampton years earlier. After teaching for a summer at Alabama State University, Dr. Biggers was contacted by Dr. R. O'Hara Lanier in 1949 as the first president of the newly established Texas State University for Negroes in Houston, but currently known as Texas Southern University, to establish the art department. In 1952, Biggers created Sleeping Boy for the 5th Southern Western exhibit sponsored by the Dallas Museum of Fine Art. In fact, he did win the prize, but because of racial segregation, he was unable to be awarded at the ceremony and was handed an award at the door. At this time, African Americans were only allowed to attend the museum 1 day a week, hence why we have free museum days on Thursdays. In 1954, Biggers gained his PhD while being commissioned to create a mural at the Blue Triangle, Houston's first YWCA, which served the Black women and youth in Houston's third ward community. This mural was commissioned by Reverend Fred Seeley for his late wife, Dora. Originally, he wanted Biggers to paint a portrait of her, but Lee convinced him otherwise. Dr. Biggers felt a greater tribute will be made by depicting the history of Black women in America. It was agreed upon, and the title for this mural is The Contribution of Negro Women to American Life and Education, which featured Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman leading their people to freedom and education. In 1957, a UNESCO grant allowed him and his wife to travel for 6 months in West Africa, including Ghana, Nigeria, and Togo. To mention, Biggers was one of his first Black artists of his era to visit Africa. This trip transformed Biggers, forever quoting, "I had a magnificent sense of coming home, of belonging." He made his drawings from his trip into a book titled Anansi, The Web of African Life. Biggers also completed his mural titled The Web of Life, which is located in the University Museum at Texas Southern University. This mural reflects the interdependence of organisms with a balance for nature and all living things alike, completed with organic forms and round-shaped women surrounded by tree roots displaying a womb. In 1974, he created Family Unity. During the construction of our new Student Center, the students demanded a bigger piece to be included in the building. There are 3 themes that are presented in this mural. One on the far left was an honor to women. Second was men and women creation, birth are becoming anew. And third is the family unit. Ancestors, elders, and children will be seen in this mural as well. In 1983, Dr. Biggers retired from TSU after contributing his life as an arts educator, training the next generation of artists and educators in the arts department. Here's an image of the current alumni student who are still working and contributing to the legacy of artists. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Ken. It's kind of sliding, so you have to just hold it up.
Okay. This?
Yes.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Jackson. I'm one of the current undergraduate interns under the HCHE project at the University Museum at Texas Southern University. I'll be speaking about Dr. Biggers' visionary creation of Hannah Hall mural program and giving a detailed look at a few particular murals. Mac H. Hannah Hall, built in 1951, is the second oldest building on Texas Southern University's campus. The building for Mac H. Hannah Jr., who was a local mortgage provider, consul to Liberia, and later chairman of the TSU Board of Regents. Although it is now an administrative building, it previously hosted classrooms, including the art department on the 3rd floor, which is the most important aspect of the building. There are more than 120 student murals in Hannah Hall, thanks to the program created by Dr. John T. Biggers. Like Rita mentioned, Biggers was recruited to Houston to found the art department at Texas Southern University in 1949. And very quickly, he instituted a program where students painted murals on the walls of Hannah Hall. The result of Biggers' vision is a wholly unique artistic treasure, spanning murals from the early 1950s all the way up to 2013. No other HBCU, as far as I'm aware, no other university in the world has a collection of student murals rivaling the size and quality of TSU's collections. The Hannah Hall murals are a visual archive of art students' experiences, belief, politics, and visions for the future. One of the oldest murals still visible in the buildings is Abe Washington's 1952, The History of the Negro in Education. Washington's mural presents a historical narrative of Black education spanning from slavery to the 1950s. Cool. At the far left, enslaved people are reading amidst scenes while white supremacist violence in the chaos of the Civil War. Towards the middle, young black children are writing on the walls Emancipation Proclamation. Young black children are writing the words on a chalkboard beneath a small portrait board of President Lincoln. To the far right, Booker T. Washington stands tall besides the text from his famous 1895 Atlantic Compromise speech, where he urged his platform of vocational education and racial upliftment within segregation. On the far right, long lines of black graduates entered a new world where we can see various black professionals at work. Other student muralists from this early period who painted works reflecting on school integration, the traumas of war, and life cycles. The 1970s were a high point in the mural painting program, including a series of political murals that reflect a range of students' political beliefs and perspectives on the U.S., racism, and civil rights movement. All four of the following murals are in the same hallway on the second floor. First of these is one of the masterpieces of the collection, Edward Mills' 1970s mural. Mills' mural features scenes of protest of a middle figure who is either uplifting or pulling down the American flag to reveal or conceal the KKK and racism hidden behind the flag. Ghostly portraits of John and Robert Kennedy both appear in the upper right corner. Below them, Stokely Carmichael's face burst out through the flag, an homage to the 1976 so-called TSU riot or TSU invasion, when Houston police invaded Texas Southern's campus, fired nearly 5,000 rounds of ammunition to student dormitories, arresting nearly 488 students. Kenneth Walker's mural, painting in the 1970 or 71, is more clearly pessimistic and critical of the U.S. rife within the imagery of Confederate flags, enslaved people, and burning crosses. The piece highlights the tragic irony of the Declaration of Independence claim that all men are created equal. Last among these political murals is this piece. From May 1970, by an unknown artist who signed peace, Sambe Shabaks. The left panel to my eye features Bobby Seale, Catherine Cleaver, Huey P. Newton, and Eldridge Cleaver, all of whom were important leaders in the 1960s Black Panther Party. On the right side, politics is in action. One of the founding principles of the Black Panthers was policing the police, following around with guns to deter from brutalizing people. In the murals, we see two police officers beating Black women, and three uniformed Black Panthers in the back have fired their rifles at the police. The backdrop includes a wall graffitied with pro-Black slogans and Free Lee Otis. Signs referring to Lee Otis Johnson, a TSU student leader who was sentenced to 30 years in jail for passing a joint to a police officer. One last feature to note is the fire hose included in the murals incorporating the building's architecture to insinuate the tension of the scene. Dr. Biggers insisted the students relate to the painting to the wall and not cut a hole in the wall with the painting. And this is a prime example of the practice. The 1970s political murals are one of the highlights of the Hannah Hall collection, an incredible glimpse into students' thinking and artistry. As I hope I've shown across 7 decades, Hannah Hall has provided TSU art students an outlet for their creativity and a way to permanently leave their mark on campus. Dr. Biggers secured his students a unique opportunity to follow in his footsteps and establish themselves as mural painters. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Camila Davis. I'm also an art major, senior, minor in museum studies, and I'm also projecting with the HCAC project. And thank you for joining us today for the Biggers celebration. My presentation is going to highlight a few of the Black female artists that learned and grew from the teachings of Dr. Biggers in their time at Texas Southern University. First, I want to discuss Patricia Morris. She graduated in 1970 and specialized in weaving, sculpture, ceramics, and painting. She most likely would have been taught by Professor Teresa Allen. Here are just a few of her drawings that she completed during her time at Texas Southern, and I also wanted to add a few of her photos and her hard work in the art department. Next, I wanted to present to you Elizabeth Montgomery Shelton, also a class of 1970. She focused on mixed media art and sculptures. This artist captures the strength and sensuality of all women in her work. She was commissioned to create a bust of MLK for the Mountaintop Award for the Black Heritage Society in Houston. Notable winners and honorees of this award include Rosa Parks, Coretta Scott King, and Nelson Mandela. Displayed here are two of her sculptures which featured mother and child. This was a common theme taught throughout the art department. The first sculpture here on the left, you can see she created first in the sculpture class. When she gave birth to her daughter, she was asked to create another one. After TSU, she studied art in Rome and taught art for decades in Texas. She is also still a practicing and influential artist today. Our final artist of today's spotlight is Delita Martin. Martin graduated from TSU in 2002, receiving her BFA in drawing and continued to produce for printmaking. As a child, Martin's first experience with printmaking was watching her father, Dr. Biggers, and Harvey Johnson create prints in the painting room of the Biggers Art Center. Martin is currently a master printer working in her studio, Black Box Press in Huffman, Texas. Her work recently has featured in the State of Arts Discovery American Art Now in the Crystal Bridges Museum exhibition, featured in permanent collections such as the Bradbury Art Museum, Library of Congress, National Museum of Women in Arts, and the Venice Biennial, and more. As a printmaker, Martin continues to explore the versatility of printmaking by adding stitchworks to her prints, merging with a variety of patterns and colors to embellish her pieces. At her compound, Delita currently hosts printmaking workshops for students and most recently produced her first handmade book. Martin currently deals with reconstructing the identity of Black women by piecing together the signs, symbols, and languages found in what could be called everyday life from slavery through modern times and today. Martin's goal is to create images as visual languages to tell the story of Black women that have often been marginalized, offering the different perspective of lives of Black women. All right, thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the presentations.
Thank you so much for those incredible presentations. As a refresher, I'm Brittany Webb. I am a curator of modern and contemporary art at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, and I am blessed to get to work in John Biggers' legacy at the museum every day. And by that, I mean Dr. Biggers is the artist who was the first Black artist to have work enter the museum's permanent collection. And what I think a lot of people who visit the museum, work at the museum, know about the museum might not know is that his refusal of entry into the museum for 1950 was the catalyst that began the desegregation of the museum. So one of the things I think about as somebody who is very invested in how we preserve and archive Black genius in institutions is that had that not happened, we would not have had the beginning of collecting work by artists of African descent from all over the world. So every artist in the collection, every artist that has ever had their work shown on those walls owes a debt of gratitude to Dr. John Biggers. That's only one way to think about the legacy of greatness. I think these presentations give us another opportunity. So I would love to hear you just reflect on what the life and work and legacy of Dr. Biggers has meant to you as young people who get to continue on in carrying that path of art being at the center of your life forward. What does that feel like in your everyday lives, in your everyday existence, in your experience as students in Houston?
Well, hello. Okay. Well, for me, Born and raised in Louisiana, coming to and doing research upon institutions that are founded with the belief that groups of minorities and whatnot are able to produce arts of work. Coming into that program and learning the intangible history of that was remarkable. Coming in as a first-time freshman, not knowing anything about the history of John Biggers, and being able to be a part of this incredible team and immortalize that, gain the valuable tools and knowledge of how to maneuver throughout this industry has been very life-changing. It's actually helped me pinpoint where I want to establish myself in my career in the future. That's one way I could say it's changed my life for the better in a sense. Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Ken said. I could definitely agree that coming to Texas Southern freshman year, you know, being an artist my whole life, ever since I was younger, not really knowing what I wanted to do exactly with my major, definitely just navigating my way through freshman year. Sophomore year, that's when I met Dr. Wardlaw, and then she introduced me to the museum world. So with having her classes with my minor being museum studies, it kind of helped me navigate the art department as with my art major as my main focus. So it's definitely been an honor and definitely has been a very informational experience learning about Dr. Biggers and his legacy.
For me, let me just talk about the archival perspective of it and being able to document the work of Dr. Biggers, but not only Dr. Biggers, but the his students' works. And there are a lot of still during our events that we have on campus, the students will come to to these events and let us know about the history of Dr. Biggers. These are things that we would have not known had they not, expressed us through our oral history project that we started as a part of the HCAC project. And so I think the highlight for me will be the oral history project. We have the alumni students come over for homecoming, which we started about 3 or 4 years ago, and they sit down and they talk to us about their experiences as CSU art majors, what that was like for them as students, as artists, as current working artists, and just being able to be a part of that whole archival experience and knowing that the history of not only Dr. John Biggers, but the history of TSU, African-American artists will always forever be, stored and protected by TSU students is just really, really a major key for me. And being able to also share the skills that I've learned as an archivist to fellow artists who are still working and have not yet, one, digitized their artworks or made it available online for people to see is really important for me because, it allows me to share the skills and not only in the perspective of like pre-digital age, this is where my mind is. The internet didn't exist, right? So there's a lot of artists that are still currently working who may not have like a large following, but their works to not only just American history, but American art is very prominent. And I think that their work needs to be known and needs to be seen worldwide. So the skills that I have currently as an art minor, and being able to teach these artists how to create websites, how to take pictures of their work so that they can sell prints, not only sell original works, how to scan their sculptures, how to create resumes, how to apply for shows that are online, online juried shows. It's just really important to me to create that merger from like pre-digital world to now learning how to have access to things online and just being able to share their works virtually.
That's amazing. Can I ask how you're thinking about future careers? And I say this as somebody who often got the, well, what are you going to do with that question when I was a student? My family members will pretend that they don't remember asking this question now working in curatorial roles. But I think there are so many paths forward in various fields that people don't think about as being rooted in the arts. And I'm thinking about archiving, conservation, working in galleries, working at art fairs. There's a million industries. I've been thinking about the fact that the astronauts on Artemis had art training. They had to learn how how to, take that incredible digital photography that so many of us have been looking at. They took 2 years of photography to do that. So people don't think about art and engineering or art and NASA, but art is in everything we do. So I wonder, has this opened up any future career paths for you that have you thinking about how you want to carry your art forward in your professional lives?
That's a great question. I definitely, coming into TSU, I definitely started seeing myself as a more studio artist. But with working on this project, I got into the archives and, as well as Rita was saying, the digitization. So I definitely see myself after graduating going to the archive route. It's definitely curatorial route as well. But as I move up with my museum career, I definitely want to look into the funding and development side and get into that field.
That's important. We need that.
Just like my counterpart, Ms. Davis, I also have been doing research into certain museum management collections programs because I plan to obtain my master's in that field, mainly being inspired from the erasure of certain histories and cultures that take place in our country today.
So after I finished TSU, I went straight into my master's program, and I'll be graduating actually from Louisiana State University this May. Thank you. I took the Master's of Library and Information Science route, and also my concentration is archives. So in regards to art to work, I really want to, I'm still gonna focus on the visual art side of it, but I feel like it's more important to work on the archivist perspective of it so that I can help my community bring forward the works that, like I said before, have not been seen by people around the world. And I feel like it's their time and we need to do this before. It's a very timely job to have as an archivist because we're losing a lot of our TSU alumni artists. And RIP to Charles Kreiner, myself and another one of our workers, our registrar, Zara, I'm sorry. Some of y'all may have met Zara, who's working at the TSU Museum Registrar. We were actually digitizing some of Charles Carter's works prior to him passing away. And so the project had not yet finished, but I feel like it's very important and timely to get a hold of these TSU alumni artists so that we can have documentation and proof of their works that they have in their living studios. And not only that, I was able to actually work with, like, on the political side prior to, I co-curated a show with Dr. Wardlaw at the Emancipation Park on the legacy of her life of Sheila Jackson Lee. And also in regards to curating, I was also a part of Mayor Sylvester Turner and being able to access his office space, and myself with another TSU alumni, we were able to create the collection reports of all the items that he had inside of his office space. And this includes probably the items that had went on auction that you guys probably were aware of last year. And so it was over like 400, 500 items that were placed in his office in regards to like awards, personal items, certificates. And I think it's just very important to have that and document it so that people, when you pass away, they're able to see this work that you've done, not only for the city of Houston, but just like as a person of color, it's important to highlight your achievements. And I think it's just a really, really good job and a good space to be in now. Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have time for Q&A? Do we have questions for these budding young art stars?
She said, don't forget the schools. They need us. Thank you. Is that another question? Yes, sir.
I love this. The question is, what got me interested in museums? When I was a student, I got an internship at an African American museum, which I highly recommend. And one of the things the internship was designed to do was to get people thinking about museums, careers in museums, libraries, and archives who weren't necessarily already aware of those fields or already interested in them. And it was a real kind of brilliant, I think, diversity project because they were thinking about diversifying the feeder fields. So how do you get people who are studying the hard sciences, people who are studying engineering, people who are studying business and law to think about what futures in the arts could look like. And so it was amazing. I was in a class of graduate research fellows who were coming from all different perspectives, you know, literature, Black studies, performance studies, just I think a real breadth of approaches to thinking about art and history. And the first time I got to curatorial assist on an exhibition, I got ruined by being allowed to touch the objects. And I think that that's the bug that bites so many people. I think studio artists take this for granted. Artists are working with materials all the time, but the magic of museums is, you know, you think about fine art or historical artifacts and the importance of a history that gets really real to you in a three-dimensional way when you're in the room with an object. But as an intern or as an assistant behind the scenes, you get to do, you know, this low-level kind of grunt work that sometimes means you get to touch the objects. And that's how I got hooked.
They do a great job. Give them a warm round of applause. Yeah.
Be remiss if I don't make one comment. I don't think that this panel would be here tonight. I don't think that this audience would be here tonight if it was not for the person who had the brainstorm of the museum, which is called the University Museum at Texas Southern. James Douglas, who was president of TSU at the time, had the vision to go to Austin to acquire funds for the University Museum that we all enjoy, that extend the art department gallery into the community, and the programs that Dr. Wardlaw have been the captain of over the years. Wearable art, the community workshops, and the children's program. All of these is important, but if it had not been for his vision, I wonder, would we have ever turned the old gymnasium, the Fairchild Gym, into the University Museum?
Let him take his bow. Stand up, Douglas. Take a round of applause. And thank you so much. All of the panelists, give them another warm round of applause. Instead of me giving closing remarks, I see my curators here who have helped me bring some of these biggers, bigger than life, on these massive walls that you see, particularly the one that's on the back of your program. I think this is the largest replica of a biggers we have put up. And these are the Ghana dancers, T-Boy and Audrey Decker. Give them a warm round of applause. And I know I want us to mingle, but we've had a number of artists that we work with to try and do replicas of biggers. Adi, which one of y'all want to talk for a second? You all stay here. Adi, Bimbo, come on up here. You know, one of my favorite African artists is a guy named Oblade Glover out of Accra, Ghana. He's 92 years old. And when I called him up to ask for permission to do a replica of one of his paintings, and I told him it's going to be on a wall over at Texas Southern University. And so he said, "Oh, John Biggers." So I said, it didn't work out to do that wall at TSU at the time, so we put it on a wall downtown. But Biggers was really touched. It changed his life, as all of the speakers, Earl and all of them said, when he took that UNESCO trip to Africa. He did Togo, Ghana, and Nigeria. I see the dean of the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School here. So from our foundation, we put up $100,000 to take students from Houston to Ghana, Togo, and Benin this summer. It was a last-minute deal, so they didn't have long. I didn't think we'd get enough applicants. So in order to take the students, I talked to the dean, we're running out of money, but what's going on in the world, the price of the tickets was going up. So it's about to get to the point where we're going to have to take 4 students. But TSU came up with 20 grand. Don't stop, come up with more. We're making these students have to put up 2,000 each. And my staff members were saying, well, a lot of students won't go. I said, yeah, but if we don't have them put up some money, no students are gonna go. So you just think about it. So we gotta take chaperones, because young people do crazy stuff like I did if I'd had a chance to go over there. But look, you two, I just want you to talk briefly a little bit about what you have gone through. I know on that Christy Adair one, they were so frustrated. Earl was so nice, he gave them a photo, but the problem was the photo was inverted. It was flipped the other way. So I made the mistake of telling them they could go look at the replica, which has been wrapped up at Tom Bass, at Adair Park for a long time. And then they said, oh my God, the photo had them on the other side. So they had to go wipe it off and do it again. But they just do incredible work. I understand and appreciate the notion of cultural appropriation. The first biggest replica we did was this one. Although I got permission for the one at Adair first. I went to David Hales, Hazel's brother, 3 times. I didn't ask for an answer. So you all set it up, but I didn't just go to the man's house and say, can you give me permission to do a replica? I'm sure he was wondering, what the hell does he want? So on the 3rd time when I went to visit with him at his home in Maryland, finally I could work it up to say, I'd like permission to do a replica, because we're gonna move that Adair. It's gonna cost a lot of money. I think we're gonna move it to the Riverside property. And it'll be part of the new health department building. Not in the historic buildings of Houston Negro Hospital, but in the new building, because it ought to be inside. And so I had permission to do that one. And after 3 visits, I said, I can't come up there another 3 times. But I'd like to put one, I'd like to do that other one with the blue that you saw. The guy who could do it quickly, once he gave me permission, he was painting, which mural downtown? Which 2? Yeah. What's his name? From Canada. And so Jairus is so quick. He did the first one. He'd never heard of John Biggers. When he went back to Canada, he did it in like 4 days. He did it in 4 days. But I was worried about the notion of cultural appropriation. So in the second one, we made him work with my guy, Mo. Right? Mo Adu? Alex, who's really good, other than when they get in there together and they smoking that stuff that could get me in trouble. You know what I mean? That could get me in trouble on county property. Now, whatever. And they were, this white kid is really amazing. They were up there playing, what's they playing? Mahalia Jackson. And come on, what's her name? Nina Simone. And I said, but John Biggers was drinking Jack Daniels, which y'all using for inspiration. Shut me down on doing this stuff. So then I decided I wanted somebody who was closer to home. They're both from Nigeria, but Ade was here. But Bimbo, I found him on the internet. I bought a piece of his art at a showing in South Africa. And then when the Facebook came along, somebody on my staff tracked him down by the name, and we could find him. And now he moved to Houston. But just tell him what it's been going through. And I guess you all are maybe we on our 10th. We're up to 10 replicas of Biggers now. Is my math right? 2 downtown. Yeah, 8 replicas of John Biggers. But talk a little bit about it.
Okay. Thank you. All protocols observed. And thank you, Commissioner Rodney Ellis and Straight for Mankind for the platform that we're given and the opportunity of a lifetime, to, put your feet in the shoes of a great legend like John Biggers. There was a story told of a young lion cub that grew up with the sheeps. I don't know if you know that story, that always goes, after the cool of the day, they go to the river to drink water. And of course, when the lions come up, he will run with the sheep and everything. And So, but there's a certain day that he was looking through the, the reflection and realized that I look like those ones. And the next time it happened, he crossed over. I want to say that I believe was the experience that happened to John Biggers when he went to Africa, because from what I gathered from, the history, his work transformed and changed. And he got not just a vision, but a mission. Because if you look at his work, you will see a creator that breathed his soul into what he did. My very first experience of the work was myself and Ade, after we did a few works over here and we were told to do Christy Adair. Like I always say, like as an artist, I always say we are visual journalists. And of course, indeed, when you look at the work of Christy Adair, it's actually visual journalism of the life and history of, the Madam Christy Adair. And but when I got there and we had to do the work, I felt, well, both of us felt through some emotions like, wait a minute, why is it working like this? Because the complications was a lot. And then when you turn around, you see something different. We go home, we come back again, we say, okay, let's just go visit the original. When we get there, we're like, oh my God, this is here. Oh my God, this is fish. Oh my God, it was a lot. And so I got mad at him, like, why? Who you trying to prove to? Who you trying to prove to? But at the end of the day, I had to fall in love with him because I realized it is not just that he's trying to prove something. He is trying to write history, not crystallize history that we all have opportunity to see and to read through today, his life, his soul, his mind, and exactly what he was feeling, not just at that time, the soul of the African-American, people. Precisely, that's what he documented. And it's a great opportunity for me as an artist coming from Africa, I just resonated with it because when I saw, the shapes and geographic, the shapes and that he uses, the triangles, the geometric shapes and everything, it just resonated with me. Of course, coming from the motherland, I connected real quick. And I just want to say thank you to him, and thank you to the work that he did. And his dexterity, his discipline, to do those works. Trying to repeat it, I could feel the pain, but yet he was so disciplined that he had to put his mission to work, not just to work, for us to see. It's beautiful, and it's a great opportunity for me. Thank you.
My name is Ade Odumfa, and I think Bimba said it all. And all I will add is to say thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Thibault and Audrey, Street Art for Mankind. And thank you for the opportunity to be part of history, because I know this is history being made again, He did it in his studio, but we're putting it out there. And thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Houston.
Yes.
So we can do the cake in here or out there? Out there, we're not gonna mess up the carpet. Thank you all for coming. We're gonna have a little birthday thing out here. John Biggers cake out here. John and Hazel.